Good to present to you all again this year. Um, Welcome, El Nino. It's funny. In 2022, I was right for the wrong reasons, and in 2023, I was right for the right reasons. So that does indeed feel good. I do feel very good about my confidence level in this year's forecast, mainly because it is playing out exactly as it should, for a change. Last year was a little surprise. We had one more year of a La Nina condition in the Pacific, and it really um, uh, it wasn't your normal La Nina year. In fact, you'll see here in a second that, as you guys already know, the temperatures were considerably warmer than a normal La Nina year, and made a difference. Now, this one's going to be a little different than previous years. And for those of you that do not know me, I spent 22 years as the global operations lead for Lockheed and Boeing in my prior life, and for meteorology. And then for the last 16 years, I've been with HDR doing a very wide variety of things, but this is still my passion. Long range forecasting is both difficult and challenging, but also exciting. And I imagine means quite a bit to you. And I totally understand that. Before I begin, I need to give you let's make that a little bigger. A disclaimer, which HCR basically says that I'm giving you advisory information, and it is based on a very wide variety of complex weather situations, numerical modeling, professional judgment. And bottom line is the following information is provided as guidance for what is possible rather than a definitive understanding of what is to be. However, it wouldn't be given to you if I didn't believe in it or it didn't have confidence in it. So let's review last year's forecast. And Christine was a little off on what I had said last year, which was last year indicated that 2023 would look like 2001. How did we do? Well, this is only looking at temperature right now and only for the city of Lincoln, which I'm going to bring it up now. If you guys want a specific location with more analysis, I only use Lincoln because I got good data. But if there's another one, give me feedback. You'll see my email at the end of the presentation, and I appreciate the feedback. Even if you want to call me names, it's okay. So in comparison, 2001 was the average annual max temp was 62.42. Last year, it was 67.08. And as you can see in that green column right there in the middle, the departure between the two was most significant in the fringe months. February was 15 degrees above what it was in 2001. And in September, it was 10 degrees above. Overall, as per the average annual max temperature for the whole year was 3.54 degrees warmer than normal. That kind of goes without saying, and I'll show you why in just a second. But the one thing that you can pretty much count on from going forward now is it's going to be warmer than it used to be, plain and simple, both in daytime max temps and in nighttime min temperatures. Now, the departure of last year from average, the 1973-2023 average, 51 years, was 1.46 degrees. Not too much to write home about, but when you see that in the big picture of long-term trends, it's something that any forecast in the future has to take into account, that the long-term trend is continuing to show an increase in temperatures. Now, remembering these are for Lincoln, how do we do on precip? So if I said that precip was going to be akin to 2001, 2001, yeah, Lincoln got 31.81 inches of precip. This last year, they got 22.52 inches of precip. So that's quite a bit of departure. However, as you guys already know, there was a giant donut hole right over southeastern Nebraska the whole year. It was very frustrating from a forecast standpoint, because that portion of Nebraska just did not get hit by anything. It was like there was a force field, and everything kept going around it. But probably most importantly for your crop growing, and again, love some feedback on this. In 2023, the 3 months that were above normal, and I think rather timely for the growing of sorghum, were June, July, and August. And they were not only above normal, they were well above what happened in 2001. Bottom line is, in Lincoln, the June-August normal is 11.68 inches, and you guys got 13.90 inches. So what happened last year? I was just showing you all about Lincoln. Now, Kearney, little different story. The annual average max temperature wasn't as high, mainly because as high as the average annual max temp in Lincoln, because Kearney had more cloudy days. It was still above the long-term trend and also above the long-term average. No surprise there. What you're looking there on that graph is the 1973 to 2023 annual average max temperature for Kearney. Needless to say, it is indeed going up, and so is the min temp at an even steeper rate. The average annual max temp for 2023 was 39.48 degrees Fahrenheit. So this basically tells us, as we go forward, you're going to have less freezing days. You're going to have a little warmer springs, a little warmer fall. And over time, it is highly likely that that trend you're seeing there is going to continue across Nebraska. Now, this is calendar year precipitation, not water year. And the average for 1973 to 2020, should be 2023 average, is 24.83 inches. Well, last year they got 26.96 inches. So it was above average precipitation, as I had forecast for Kearney, but not for Lincoln. And so I was half right, or I was half wrong. This map is a percent of normal precipitation map. Scales down there at the bottom. The difference between the yellow and the green is where you're at 100% normal or above in green, or below in yellow. Well, look at that across Nebraska. Everything west of center was pretty much above normal. Everything in that southeast corner was below normal. Kind of frustrating from a long-term forecast standpoint. So the fortunate thing is all the water in the Platte comes from that western side of that equation. And if you look at the northeast corner of Colorado, the southeast corner of Wyoming, western Nebraska, they got above normal precip. And as it were, that resulted in Platte River flows at Grand Island being almost double what they were in 2022. Don't have to tell you about how crappy 2022 was, but 2023 had an average daily flow. They did, the graph there is only 2023, and it's showing you the cubic feet per second at Grand Island. It did bottom out in September, but that's kind of be expected. However, look at the flows in the really meaty months of June, July, and August. that's pretty darn good. That's something you definitely want to see. That is also something that I anticipate happening this year as well. So, along those lines, where are we heading into 2024? Um, okay, take this in context. This is the current U.S. drought monitor map, and it's showing extreme drought in that southeast corner of Nebraska. No big surprise. They didn't get the precip that the rest of the state did. However, this is a far cry from where you're at a year before. And the current January 21st, 2024 soil moisture for the state is showing good percentile ranking over the northern portion of the state and decent over the southern portion of the state. Still a little on the dry side. However, with snow melt and additional precip that is coming in the February and March time periods, should be in really good shape going into the summer months for soil moisture. And again, hell of a lot better than it was last year at this same time. What does the snowpack look like in the North Platte this year? A little below normal for the North Platte, but not egregiously so. And I do anticipate that being right on normal by the time that snow starts to melt in April and May. So that's looking good. And then the South Platte looking good as well. We're right around 100% for most of the South Platte Basin. And that's where I live. So I can tell you that it is going to be either normal or just slightly above normal snowpack by the time it starts melting. So flows on the Platte you should anticipate they're going to be either normal or slightly above normal. Based on the snowpack as well as the anticipated precipitation for the remainder of this winter. This one I'm going to throw a curveball at you guys, and you don't have to answer right now, but I would love the feedback. I really need to know what percentage of your crops are irrigated versus rain-fed. That's going to really help me, especially geographically, better understand what these forecasts mean to you, which is something that a lot of TV meteorologists never consider in so much as, hey, it's going to be sunny and warm. And, oh, I forgot to tell you, your soccer game is going to get washed out on Sunday. They often leave out the information that really is going to impact your life versus just being all cheery and nice. Anyway, so I realized that precipitation is important, how much and when, air temperatures, warm and when. That's another thing I need to know about is what is your optimal temperatures and when do they occur? If it is warmer and you have enough water, do you get a better yield? Or is it better if you have a cool May, June, and a warmer July, August? Those are things I don't know about growing sorghum. I mean, I know enough to be dangerous, but how that impacts what I talk to you guys about is something I can improve on as the years go on. I will probably retire in 2025. However, I'm really enjoying this, so I'll hang with you guys as long as I don't have a really bad year and you say, no, I really don't want to hear anything from that guy again. Again, soil moisture, what's enough? What are you guys looking for? What's important? When is optimal soil moisture important? And then timing, which is crucial, of course, to all farming, and long-term and short-term timing of all the above parameters are things I need some feedback on. I would greatly appreciate that. I think I can make a better forecast because of it. And I would also learn a lot more about what you guys do. So what does 2024 look like? As Those of you that have been in the audience in the past, we rely very heavily on what are called hydroclimate indices. You know them as the El Nino La Nina cycle. They do have a very strong influence on what happens everywhere in the country, not just California, not just the Pacific Northwest. No, they have a very distinct impact on the central portion of the country as well, and particularly in Nebraska. So in the past, we have looked for assimilies between past years and what's going on right now. Well, lo and behold, we are currently coming out of a La Nina into, and we are in an El Nino period where the Central Pacific warms. It changes the jet stream pattern over the United States, and does tend to benefit, particularly for precipitation, Nebraska throughout the year. So I look back in the last 34 years of record, and what we're going through right now is very similar to the kind of transition that occurred between 2007 and 2010. As you can see, the blue numbers are all La Nina numbers, and then it transitions to a positive numbers that are in red here in 2010. And we get up to the January, February time period, and it's a strong El Nino period. Well, we're just coming out of the La Nina in 2023, and we're at 1.1 as of November and December, which is very close to where we are at the beginning of 2010. So it looks similar to 2010. Does NOAA Climate Prediction Center agree with that transition to El Nino? Yeah, it's already there. But throughout this year, they're anticipating it will be an El Nino till about April, May, June, and then start transitioning back to a La Nina, which, as per this, is exactly what happened in 2010. Transition back to a La Nina in the April, May time period, that fifth column over in the 2010 year that you see there. I don't think I've ever talked to you guys about this before, but the reason why understanding that El Nino La Nina cycle is so incredibly important is because it has to do with the global energy budget. And that global energy budget dictates where the jet stream goes, because it's all one system. But when you warm an area the size of the Pacific Ocean that much, you have transferred a crap load of energy from one part of the globe to another part of the globe. And that's going to affect what the atmosphere does. And as it were, what did 2010 look like, and what can we expect 2024 to look like? Well, 2010 had a monthly average max temperature of 62.29 degrees, so cooler than last year. And then monthly average min temp 39.96, so pretty much on par with what last year was showing for temperature. Precip was pretty much off the hook. It was 7-8 inches higher than normal for, in this case, Lincoln. Well, I learned last year that May was supposed to be a crazy high month, and it wasn't. It was very, very different than 2001, which we thought it would look like. But bottom line is, and this is probably most important, is precipitation should be either normal or above normal. It would be very unlikely for it to be below normal this year. And so give you an idea of what the drought monitor looked like in August 31st, 2010. Can't promise anything, but I'm showing you this because this is what the drought monitor should look like August 31st, 2024. That's pretty good shape. In fact, amazingly good. Now, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Southeast Nebraska lingers a little bit in the moderate drought category, just because it's got a lot of catching up to do. So you guys just listen to me tell you what I think is going to happen. Let's see what NOAA has to say about it. So this is from the Climate Prediction Center, and it is a forecast for temperature and for precipitation for the next 3 months of February, March, April time period. So they're showing temperatures pretty much on par with normal, which should be anticipated. But they're also showing above normal precipitation for that 3-month time period. All looks good. Now, that's not quite into your growing season yet, I don't think, but it is promising for good flows on the Platte throughout the year. And remembering that some of that's going to be falling in snow and eventually melting off or soaking in as well. So NOAA's in pretty much good agreement with what I'm telling you guys about. And then I always show you this map. This map didn't change from last year, but the likelihood of severe weather is greater in El Nino years, which we are in, up until the middle part of the year. And then the latter half of the year has a lessening opportunity for severe weather because it will transition back to a La Nina influenced period. The whole thing, that transition, there's a lag time, and it takes a little while, and the atmosphere and the global atmosphere needs to adjust. But bottom line is April, May, in slightly into June, you can expect an uptick in the potential for severe weather. The latter half of the year, not so much so. So what have I told you about? Long-range forecast for Nebraska, as we are in the middle of an El Nino hydroclimate cycle, and that portends that the year should be warmer than the long-term average, not a lot, but cooler than last year. The latter third of the year should see slightly cooler than normal temperatures. So overall, it's going to be warmer than normal for, say, the first 8 months, but that last 4 months should be slightly cooler than normal, and actually a little wetter than normal too. But annual precipitation should be above normal over the entire region of southern Nebraska, and flows on the Platte River should be slightly above last year's, but far better than 2022. There is my mantra as well as my contact information. Truly, the goal of forecast is not to predict the future, but to tell you what you need to know to take meaningful action in the present. A lot of people forget that. It's like you hear a tornado warning and you go, whoa, should we go to the window? Do we want to go somewhere else? Anyway, I would love to answer any questions that you guys have, and would really appreciate any feedback you can give me at my email address there.
Fantastic. We'll make sure that we get some things recorded, or not recorded, but documented and sent to you, because we'd love it. It's neat to hear someone who's approaching retirement still have that same amount of passion. And so we're excited for you, more excited for us that you'll continue to hang out with us. So that'll be fun. What kind of questions do we have from folks?
With the severe storm, the torrential rainfalls we had early May last year, what's the possibility of a storm like that sit up for 24 hours?
Could you see that? Could you hear that one?
I could not know.
The torrential rainfall we had in May, some of those large storms that, yeah, between 8 and 12 inches. How is that? How can you project that at all for 24?
And simple answer, no. More complex answer, events like that are become, as you guys see in the news every day. Look at what happened in San Diego. Now, granted, that was only 4 inches of rain, but that completely flooded San Diego. The extreme events are increasing at a rate greater than the either annual precipitation or precipitation intensities are increasing for smaller events. In other words, the likelihood of extreme events is just plain and simple becoming greater. Can I foresee that in a given year in a given location? No. Can I tell you it's going to happen somewhere in the Central Plains? Yes. Sometimes it's luck of the draw. I always draw the analogy for events like that to a car accident. Everything's got to come together at the right time for an accident to occur. Somebody's looking the wrong way. They got a text on their phone. Their windshield got messed up. All those things have to happen for that accident to occur. Well, the same is true of a big event like 8-10 inches in 24 hours in Nebraska. Jet stream's got to be just in the right place. Moisture's got to be available. Temperature's got to be right. The atmosphere has to be sufficiently unstable. Fortunately, in the near term, those things are, or you can forecast them. In the long term, almost impossible, other than to say they are becoming more and more likely to occur.
We wish you'd answer that different, but I guess we understand the truth of it. Other questions that we might have?
I can make stuff up if you want, but
Don't be like all the other meteorologists. Okay?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago, I heard another meteorologist talking about how tornadoes are trending more to the east. And I just wonder why, if you guys have any why.
Around 3 years ago, we started to hear that Tornado Alley was maybe shifting itself east. And are you seeing that, and or why might that be occurring?
As temperatures warm, which I showed you there, all the graphs from Carney, that is indeed happening. That is like steroids for severe weather. Well, I would say, yes, it is expanding eastward or shifting eastward. It's actually shifting everywhere. And case in point, I was on a call last summer and looked out the window and had to end the call, which I was leading, because a tornado formed right outside my window. A tornado has never occurred where I live, right up against the Rockies. And it went over and did a considerable amount of damage in a place called Highlands Ranch. So overall, basically, the atmosphere is more dynamic. So geographically, no, I don't see an increase. I mean, I don't see a shift in Tornado Alley. I just see it getting bigger.
Interesting perspective there. Do you happen to have the recording of how exactly you ended that session that you were doing?
No, I wish I did, but I tell you, everybody and their brother afterwards pinged me and said, "Oh my God, I saw it on TV."
Yeah, you can't make that stuff up.
No.
I had a question for you about, they talked about some of the development of crops or lack thereof because of the smoke and some different things. How is some of the climate issues regarding, say, fires, does that impact actual weather? Or just how we experience the weather?
I'll tell you what the work I've been doing in that is, needless to say, as conditions warm and precipitation variability from year to year changes, that fire hazard is increasing all over the West. And quite interestingly, Georgia is starting to experience the same kind of situation, which of course they've never had before because they get average 54 inches of rain a year. But if they have a dry period, it doesn't take long for things to dry out and become more volatile. Bottom line is we got lucky last year. It wasn't nearly as smoky as it was the previous year, even though the Canadian wildfires went off the hook. there is strictly my theory, and I this is truly my humble opinion, is I do believe the presence of wildfire and wildfire smoke, particularly in the Central Plains, is going to continue to increase over the next 5 years. However, and this is a sad statement on our climate, so much is going to burn that there won't be as much to burn after that 5-year period. So I would anticipate the amount of smoke days in summertime going down over time. It's almost a catharsis for forestry in the West, and inevitable that conditions are going to get worse before they get better.
There definitely is that. Any other questions? I had one more to add. You're kind of our long-term expert. Do you have favorite sites or apps that you look at for short-term weather that might be of assistance for us?
It's truly worth going to, if only because over time, if you look at it every day, you will learn the ins and outs of utilizing atmospheric models. Okay, kind of a goofy name. It's called Tropical Tidbits, and TIDBITS at the end, all one word, .com. And there is a huge assortment of atmospheric model that you can use to better understand and learn the ins and outs of, that are a forecasting tool that would be the same thing that Weather Service uses, but it's more in its raw form and far more valuable than anything you would get from the Weather Service, actually. I mean, the Weather Service does a great job, but they got to cover such a large area that it is difficult for them to target one given location. On there, you will find, oh, wait, maybe I can bring it up for you guys right now. Let me see. Hang on a second. Oh, look at that. Okay, that come up for you guys?
Yes, yep, we see it.
So this is a privately run site. Why do I use it versus anything? I mean, there's tons of places I can get this information from. This site is faster and more intuitive than any I use, so I use it regularly. I'll go up here to forecast models, and that is only one of the regions. If I click down here, is the screen changing for you guys?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, cool. So say I want to look at Nebraska. I can zoom in the model specific to the Central Plains. Now, if I click through, notice there's times at the top here, and it says forecast 6 hours. And this is a model run that's based on, let's see, what is that? That's 5 a.m. your time this morning. And it's showing me where the precipit's going to be. And these black lines are pressure, and the blue and the red lines actually equate to temperature. But it's going through and showing me that you guys are going to stay dry. And in fact, by the middle of next week, mid-50s, which I'm sure nobody will be greatly complaining about. Then come February 3rd, a rather robust, a classic El Nino storm is anticipated to move across Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska. See the blue? That's snow. See the green? That's rain. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing for you guys this time of year, but it will be warm enough to rain from this system. And why do I say it's a classic El Nino system? Let me zoom out and I'll show you what that looks like from a Western standpoint. El Nino years, storms come way down here at these latitudes, 30 degrees north. And then let's go back here. Okay, so boom, 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 boom. Now, the farther you go out in time, the less likely these events are going to occur. However, this year, this model has been doing really, really well. And here you have this big old blob of moisture coming down there, real low latitudes, going to tag San Diego again, going to get Arizona, going to move all over the Four Corners area, and then become a low center that ends up pushing moisture up over, oops, let's go back here. There we go. Right there, that little low center ahead, pushing moisture up all over Nebraska. These red lines down here mean warm. Anything that's blue means snow. Gross generalization, but you get the picture. So in an El Nino year, storms come in at much lower latitudes and tend to circle up this way, hit this whole region, hit this region, and then end up curving back and getting the far northeast. That's the power of knowing that it's an El Nino versus a La Nina year. La Nina year, all the storms are coming in from the northwest to the northeast, and they're diving down across California, and usually recurving before they even get to this area here. Yeah, but in the El Nino year, waters are warmer, there's more moisture, and they come in at a lot lower latitude. And as it were, the likelihood of big snowfalls in Nebraska is less, but the likelihood of precipitation is greater.
We'll take it. We don't ever look moisture. We don't look away from it, but we might complain about the mud. That's just how we roll. But I think you'll see some traffic spark on this because that's exciting and a new level of weather geeks. Thank you very much, Dr. Mann.
I've got a ton more, but I greatly appreciate it.